Welcome to another episode of the Filmosophers Movie Talk Show. I'm Chris Bush.
And I'm Dean Sluyter.
On the Filmosophers, we talk about film and filmosophy with the people who make the movies and who love the movies. And on today's show, we have two people who love the movies. Yours truly. And it's a pleasure to share the show with co-host Dean Sluyter, author of Cinema Nirvana. Did I say cinema?
Yeah,
Cinema Nirvana, Enlightenment Lessons from the Movies. Dean, we're going to talk about a very famous movie in the light of your Cinema Nirvana treatment. Tell us a little bit the genesis of the idea, though, and how you came upon this notion.
For the whole book?
For the book, yeah. Just to give
Well,
our viewers and listeners an idea what we're
Sure.
going to be doing here.
Sure. Well, the two great passions of my life, or at least two of the great passions of my life, have always been movies and dharma, enlightenment practice, the wisdom teachings. And I just, my particular form of madness kept cross-fertilizing them, and I would walk out of movies with my late first wife, with Maggie, and I'd say, oh, when this happens, this is just like in that teaching, this is like in that. And I would kept chewing her ear about these connections that I was seeing that no one else was, and that I'm sure the filmmaker never intended. And she finally said, Dean, why don't you go over there and write this down? So
She had enough.
she had enough, right? And so after a while, I had a book. And I made a point when people heard that I was writing a book about enlightenment teachings from movies, they would say, oh, yeah, you've got to write about the Matrix, and you've got to write about Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, and all this really obvious stuff. So I mentally made a list of every movie that people said I should write about, and made a point not to write about any of them. Because I figured if everyone else was seeing the spiritual content or the enlightenment teachings there, that's no fun. That's low-hanging fruit. So I wrote about Jaws, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, The Godfather, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, all this stuff where people would say, there can't possibly be spiritual content there.
But there is, and you plumbed the depths to find it.
That's right.
And it's there. I mean, it's there. And it's obvious when it's brought to attention to me.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think it's wonderful because it's, let me ask you this, because we're going to do the Cinema Nirvana treatment, the philosophical treatment with Jaws on today's show as an example of this. And we'll do other movies in future shows periodically. We'll do The Godfather and The Graduate, and other films that you profiled in Cinema Nirvana. So fascinating. But is it your sense that the knowledge is there and the filmmakers making it, they were tapping into archetypal wisdom, ancient, universal, perhaps unconscious wisdom? They may have been unconscious of it, but they were channeling it nonetheless. And that's partly why these films resonated with so many people globally.
Yeah.
What's your feeling about that?
Yeah, it's I would go even back prior to ancient teachings. I would just say it's our primordial nature. If the Enlightenment teachings really are valid, what they all basically say is that every drop, every speck, every moment of the finite is the infinite. If you look closely enough, take any, if you're Van Gogh, you just paint sunflowers over and over. You keep looking at sunflowers, you drill deeper and deeper into the experience of the sunflower, and then you get to a place where you paint it and other people look at the sunflower and they go, whoa. And they can't articulate probably in words why they're saying whoa, but what it's doing is it's connecting to the transcendent, to the infinite, which is the nature of existence and the nature of the viewer.
Yes. So it is really the case that you can see everything in anything.
Yeah.
And you can view a movie like Jaws, we're going to talk about in a moment, from a very superficial standpoint, as a matter of perspective, as a horror film.
Mm-hmm.
You could view it psychologically,
Mm-hmm.
but we're going to view this philosophically,
Yeah.
as you've done in Cinema Nirvana.
Yeah.
And let's start it.
Okay.
So share what you would consider to be your biggest philosophical insight about Jaws.
The big moment for me watching and rewatching Jaws was to watch it from the shark's point of view rather than the human's point of view. Because from the human's point of view, it's, as you say, it's a horror film. It's a film about terror, right? But what I realized was the very first shot in the film, which is under the opening credits, it's a POV shot. It's a point of view shot, and it's the shark's point of view. He's gliding through the water, through the the minnows and the seaweed and all that. And what he's doing, he's looking for something to eat. And what that's doing in a subtle way is it is putting us in the shark's consciousness. Okay. Now, from the shark's point of view, it's not a film about terror. It's a film about hunger and the necessity to keep moving. The whole thing, the shark's got to keep moving or it'll die. Sounds like human life as it's usually lived, doesn't it? We're always hungry for the next thing. We're always trying to get filled up. We're always trying to get satisfied. Okay, maybe this ice cream cone will do it. This ice cream cone was pretty good, but what's next? Right? Maybe this sexual experience, or maybe this book, or maybe this YouTube episode. Oh yeah, that's really great. Now I feel satisfied. And then, half an hour later, you're hungry for the next thing. So you're always hungry. You always have to keep moving. So the shark is us. Now, the problem becomes, what do we do about this? Are we doomed to this insatiability and to the sometimes not nice things that we do to other people in the pursuit of filling that hunger that can never be filled?
But then we also have the film seen from the human point of view, which is about exterminating the terror.
Right.
And a lot of the people portrayed are clueless.
Right.
As they approach this challenge, including tourists from New Jersey who bring dynamite and think they can blow the shark out of the water. A mayor played by Murray Hamilton, who's a shark denier.
Right.
Fake news, right?
Right.
Because he's got the tourist industry to protect.
Right. And notice that his town is named Amity. And he always likes to say with that, idiot smile of his, Amity means friendship. Right. The idea, everything's fine here. We're all getting along. We don't feel insatiability. We're not standing there lusting after our neighbor's riches or our neighbor's wife or whatever it is. We're all getting along here. He's got those silly tiny little anchors on his sport jacket, which are saying, yeah, we're anchored, we're stable, we're not, everything's fine. So those people, this is what in Buddhist texts is called, in this rather elitist term that they use, ordinary people. Right? Remember, there's the Chief Brody, while he's trying to deal with the shark situation, he gets one call from, I think it's an elderly lady complaining that the local kids are karate chopping her picket fence. Like that's her big problem. Our big problem is our little white picket fence being under assault. Right? So that's the lives of ordinary people. Most people are never going to really come face to face with the shark.
But then we have three people who are not ordinary.
That's right.
You've got Richard Dreyfuss playing Hooper, the marine biologist, Chief Brody, who's the local sheriff, whose job is to protect the town and the community. And then you have Quint, the Ahab character, the shark hunter.
Right. And to me, those embody three different approaches, like the three classical approaches to dealing with this basic human problem of insatiability. Quint, Captain Quint, the Robert Shaw character, we could say he represents the fundamentalist approach, right? Just go out there and the fundamentalist approach. And by the way, you can be a fundamentalist of no matter what your religion is, no matter what your philosophy is, or none of the above. It's more a psychological temperament, right? And the fundamentalist approach is really rooted in a sense of sin, sense of original sin, the sense of that I'm deep down, there's something wrong with me and with all of us. In the case of Quint, we see that in the great scene, which is really I've always felt the best scene in the film. And years later, I heard in an interview, Spielberg said the same thing. The Indianapolis scene, which is set smack dab exactly in the middle of the film. It's at night. The three of them are below decks, and they're getting drunk. There's no action, no shark. It's just three people sitting around telling stories and singing songs. It's the thing that often gets forgotten. My wife and I the other day watched Tenet. A couple of $100 million of like brilliant, fantastic, innovative stuff, and it's got everything except human beings being human.
Mm.
Right. And that's what we have here in this scene. So in that scene, when he gets drunk enough, Quint tells the story of he was aboard the USS Indianapolis, the ship that delivered the atom bomb to the planes that dropped them on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Okay. And then on their way home, all the men wound up in the water surrounded by sharks, sharks picking them off one at a time. Right. So the fundamentalist approach based on this sense of and he ends that speech with, "But we delivered the bomb." Right. The sense that there's something deeply wrong with me. And so all that sense of wrongness, it's too big to bear in oneself. So we project it onto someone else. There has to be a devil. There has to be an other. There has to be, and we don't have to name any names, but we see, certain politicians these days getting very good at exploiting that tendency. All the bad things that people fear about themselves, we project it onto someone else, and then we attack them, we kick them out of the country, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So everything gets projected on the shark, and we're going to go after the shark in the most, whatever violent kind of ways we can. Yeah. So that's the fundamentalist approach. It's the brute force approach to solving this basic problem of human life. Hooper, I would say, embodies what in Buddhist terms would be called the Theravada approach. Theravada literally means old school, the kind of old school Buddhism where it's monastic. It's so complicated. There's so many rules you have to follow to become familiar with all the ins and outs and just study all the ins and outs of human desire and how it can be overcome. And you do all these specialized meditations for contemplating your own desires and strictly controlling them. So it's like you're going down in the water with the shark, which is exactly what he does. But he, where he goes down there in the cage and he studies he loves sharks. Right? He admires them. So just studying it. But you know what? Not everyone's going to do that. It takes dedicating your whole life. Right? So this is the monastic approach, and it's an individual approach. It's interesting that his character is a bachelor. Right? He's married to this kind of knowledge. Right? So after several centuries, another a broader, more liberal form of Buddhism emerged, the Mahayana. Mahayana literally means the large vehicle. And was okay, you don't have to be a monk. Regular people, householders, married people, people like Chief Brody can do this. And we call it the big vehicle because there's room enough for everyone. Everyone can practice meditation. Everyone can wake up out of the smallness of thinking you're this small little thing that needs to be fed all the time. And you're doing it in order not only for your own benefit, but for the benefit of all sentient beings, right? Brody's the chief of police. He's responsible for the well-being of everyone in the community. And it's interesting that he's the one who winds up finally vanquishing the shark. So in a sense, the film winds up endorsing that Mahayana approach. The other interesting thing is that the Mahayanists, looking back at the Theravada, the old school approach, gave it another name. They called it Hinayana, which means small vehicle, right? They're in the small vehicle. We're in the big vehicle. Or as Roy Scheider puts it, you're going to need a bigger boat.
Interesting. Just hearing you speak and kind of identify, seeing how the different roles and personalities conform to these different approaches to the issue, the problem of freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom from, in this case, the shark. Felt in psychological terms, it seems a little bit like intellect, ego, and id. Dreyfus is the intellect. He's the one with the curiosity. He's the one with the academic training. Quint is id. He's all obsession and emotion and action, impulsive. And Brody is kind of the center. Feels a little like the center of the thing. That kind of the I-ness,
right,
of the whole thing. And he's kind of, he's kind of the heart, a little bit of the heart of the story.
Yes.
And so interesting that from the shark's point of view, yes, it's that insatiable hunger,
right,
that can never be satisfied.
Right. You know, the great moment, I mean, there's all these great moments in that Indianapolis scene. For example, Quint sings a song at one point. Farewell and adieu to your fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain, right? It's a goodbye song. He knows he's on a suicide mission and he's grinning as he's singing it because that fundamentalist approach, that approach that I'm just dirty in some fundamental way, you crave self-destruction. Whereas Hooper's song is show me the way to go home.
Yeah.
Right? I want to get back home. I want to get back to the source, back to my true nature, which is a good thing, which is welcoming, which is freeing, which is liberating, right? And then the other great moment there is when they start getting really down to it in the middle of that scene. Without a word, Quint reaches into his mouth and pulls out a tooth, his false tooth, and lays it down and never puts it back in for the rest of the film. Now, way earlier in the film, before we ever see the shark, when Hooper and Brody, they're examining a boat that's been attacked by something that turns out to be the shark, and they find a big tooth that's been embedded in it, a shark's tooth. So it's like the shark has lost the tooth, and now Quint, when he does that, never says a word about it, which is so brilliant, right? Because that just lets the implications resonate. And
They've got a lot in common.
And that's the affirmation. The shark is, it's the old pogo possum thing.
Yeah, right.
We met the enemy, and he is us.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
It is, it's a man in nature fable.
Yeah.
And certainly too, I think Spielberg did for beach vacations what Hitchcock did for shower installations.
Right.
Right.
Right. We're running out of ways to get wet safely.
Yeah. One element of the filming, I noted that, more than the last half or more of the film is out in the ocean, far from land. You don't see land. Right. I know that Spielberg said one reason he did that was he didn't want to give any sense to the audience that there was an easy out for the party, the ocean party, that they couldn't get home easily. They couldn't, it was do or die.
Right.
But you also have a take on that element.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about it is, first of all, it's completely illogical. The shark has been attacking, bathers from the beach, people right near the shore, right? And yet these guys go out way into the deep waters, out of sight of land, to hunt the shark. It's completely illogical, but what's fascinating is no one ever complains about that. Viewers don't notice it because it's right on deeper levels. It's right on that deeper psychological level, as Spielberg has pointed out. And I think it's also right on, for lack of a better word, a spiritual level, to really go and confront the shark of self. You got to go into the deep waters. You got to leave the ordinary people, so to speak, behind, and you've got to go into the deep waters of existence, the deep waters of experience.
But it's also that they're under the illusion that they're hunting the shark. Shark seems to be hunting them.
Yeah, yeah. Which works well with the fact that we are the shark is us.
Well, the shark, there's this idea of that Brahman in the Vedic tradition. Brahman is wholeness.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a sloka, a text that says Brahman is the devourer. Brahman devours all things.
Right.
That everything is food.
Right.
Ultimately, everything is food.
Right. And as a matter of fact, an image that's often used for Brahman, the wholeness of life, is the ocean.
Mm.
And in a sense, we could say the whole enlightenment journey, the whole waking up process, we could say is the process of realizing you're not a small thing like a shark that has to move desperately through the ocean of existence, trying to fill itself up. You are that ocean, and you can just be. And I'd like to actually read one little passage from my chapter
Sure.
in the book. So here's about the climactic moment when finally Roy Scheider, Brody, blows up the shark. The self, meaning the small self, the sense of a separate self, represented by the shark. The self blows up in a single explosive moment. The frenzy of rushing through time to consume the next object and the next, which is the essence of shark-like existence, is suddenly stopped short and blown away. Blown away is a literal translation of the term nirvana. Boat and shark vanish simultaneously into ocean. Then the separate self that never was joins with the wholeness of being that it always really was, as the exploded shark sinks beneath the surface, dissolving into red blood that disperses into colorless water, accompanied by a piano tinkling celestial descending arpeggios. Jaws has many moments that are clever or thrilling, but this is the one moment that is sublime, a clear evocation of transcendence, an inverted miracle in which the red wine of intoxicated desiring is converted to the clear water of being.
Amen. All right.
Okay.
Wonderful. Well, this was joyful for me. It's so great. And we have more to look forward to.
Yeah.
We're going to pepper our show release with a periodic Cinema Nirvana filmosophical episode and look forward to more of this, because this is fun.
Yeah, this is fun.
And we invite you listening or watching to join in, send us your comments or insights. And we'd love to hear from you.
And smash that subscribe button.
Oh, yeah. Hit the subscribe button. Visit our website, thefilmosophics.com. Watch our YouTube or listen to the podcast, all that good stuff.
Plug.
And Candygram.
Thanks.
And we'll see you next time. Thanks for
Chris.
joining us.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye, Dean.